Welcome back to Bettering Our Community. My name's Tiffany Denyon, host, and today we're talking about why personal branding matters for everyone with business coach and speaker Charlene DeCesar of Charlene Ignites. Charlene, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are a wonderful, vivacious, energetic force in terms of helping people individually as well as businesses and just lighting up the room.
Oh, stop. Go on.
So can you talk to us today about what is a personal brand? I think we think of big companies needing a personal brand. What is your definition of this?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because guess what? Everyone watching this, and you and I all already have a brand. So everyone has a brand. The question is whether or not they know what their brand is and whether or not it's what they would, intentionally set for themselves. And so the way I like to look at it is, you sort of your internal brand, your own programming and sort of your perceptions of yourself, and you have your external brand, what people think of you. And really creating a personal brand is about making that an intentional process and making it something that you really want to own and that you can use to make your life as wonderful as it can possibly be.
That's really interesting. I don't think most people denominate a brand that way, and I don't think they think of it in terms of themselves personally. So why do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, really, some companies don't think of it that way either. I mean, even companies in the area or businesses in the area, they also have internal brands and external brands. So it kind of works the same way. Part of what happens when I talk about an internal brand personally, I like the word programming, and if you think about the word brand, like you're branding a cow or something, right? that permanence, it is sort of like you have these experiences and memories and sort of this whole universe going on in your own head, and that is really something that you start from a very young age, and it creates your perceptions of yourself and the world. And so part of this idea of being intentional in creating that and sort of thinking about it like, oh, gee, what is my brand? What is the programming that I carry around every day that determines, how happy I am in life, how good my relationships are, how I feel about the work that I do. And so that's a really good starting point, is just to start to examine those things. One of the ways to do that, one filter for that, is emotion. So when you react to something, if you get angry or get annoyed or whatever, it's a good opportunity to look inward and say, where'd that come from? What's going on here? And then use that as sort of a self-exploration and then say, is that what I want my life to be like? Do I want to wake up and, be mad at the world, or do I want to wake up and be really excited about the life that I get to create and the experience of my life that I get to create? And then once you start to exude that brand, that sort of attitude in a really intentional way, you'll naturally attract people to seeing you in that way. And so you can make that decision too. I actually went to an event where someone, as an exercise, asked us to think about, 3 things that we really wanted to be known for. Like, what are the 3 things you really want everyone to know about you? And as I thought about it, I was sort of thinking about my desire to create energy and all the things, the positive things. And then they said, well, what if somebody else was describing you, what are the things they would say? Like, what do they know about you?
Right.
And so that is, in some ways, sort of the test too, is there a difference between the way you would like to be seen and the way you think you really are being seen?
That makes sense as to why this is so important. So it's a lot deeper than just associating a logo with a certain company. It affects people very personally, and kind of the inner landscape reflects the outer landscape and vice versa.
Yeah, and it's not different for businesses. So, particularly even a small local business, you could have a dry cleaner, or, my husband owns a HVAC company with his father. And, we talk about this idea of branding, and it isn't just what people see on the outside, it's also what happens inside. And so for a company, that's why we focus so much on culture And even though often I'm called into companies to help with sales and marketing and all the money stuff, growing the business,
Right.
which is great, it really does start with the employees, how they feel about working for the business, the kind of culture that a company creates or a business creates
sure.
internally, and the leaders that get to be with everyone every day, and how they exude their personal brand towards their employees and their staff and their customers. And then from there, it sort of radiates out into what they want the community to know them as. So it works the same way, whether it's personal or business. It starts from the inside and it kind of moves from there.
Well, it makes sense that it would definitely better the community as a whole to have that health internally, whether you're talking about an individual person or a company. So starting from the ground up, or the internal ground up, if you will, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right.
Wow. So we think of branding, we've expanded our thoughts on branding now. So we've now moved from big companies and logos to, wow, this is something more personalized. What about somebody that has a 9-to-5 job and is established in their career as it is? Why does it behoove them to be intentional about their branding?
Yeah, I mean, I think for really anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I want to make my life mean something today, I think most people are sort of, I don't want to say they become robotic in their life, but it does happen where we sort of just get into old habits and routines, and we become sort of average. And I think a lot of people accept that, who would really benefit by pushing themselves a little bit and really stretching themselves to be the best possible version of themselves, as corny as that can kind of sound sometimes. The idea is that you get to create, again, the experience of the life that you want to live. And it really does start within us, right? So a lot of people think about changing their circumstances, or they worry about how other people, what other people are doing, and they get enmeshed in other people's brains and in their lives, and in the chaos of the world, where really you have the opportunity to start within yourself. And even if your goal is to work that 9-to-5 and have time with your family and be home for dinner every night, and maybe you're not an entrepreneur or someone who has aspirations for like changing the world or whatever, even within a business, it has a ripple effect. We can decide the kind of person we want to be and have that positive influence on everyone we meet. It could be, again, you could be a cashier at a grocery store, and you have the ability to make someone else's day a little bit better.
Right.
And if your personal brand is, I want to make more people smile. That's really, if I can wake up every day and I can make more people smile and spread that sort of happiness in the world, I will die a very happy person.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it is bettering the community.
It is bettering the community, and
is.
it can be in small ways. There's a great expression that I use a lot with my clients and for myself, which is that small things done are better than great things planned. And so often people think it has to be some big, like, earth-shattering thing they have to do, run a marathon or do a huge fundraiser or whatever. If you're someone who has that sort of kindness in your heart, or you have some aspiration to a certain cause, maybe you love animals, or maybe there's something else that you've been exposed to that you would like to make some small difference, the smallest things on a consistent basis make so much more difference than big ideas that you just put on your someday maybe list and never get to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's power in action.
Power in action. Absolutely. I love it.
So we've covered somebody that's working 9-to-5. Besides, well, this might sound obvious, but what about somebody who is unemployed or who is not working? How can working on their own personal branding help them?
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to what I talked about earlier with this connection between sales and marketing and sort of personal branding. If you are looking for a job, or maybe it's just looking for a direction in life, in some ways you're selling yourself. Like you're trying to figure out how to make yourself different from everyone else who's applying for that same job. And also it's about applying for the right job. It's about finding the right job and putting that intention out there. The same way that a company has to be really intentional about the types of clients that they want, the types of customers that they want to do business with, by having a clear brand and knowing exactly who their target market is. they're going to have much more success and they're going to grow much more quickly. And a lot of companies will fight that idea of being more narrow and specific. For an individual, it kind of works the same way. Clarity is power. When you are clear about what is you're all about and what is going to be the best fit for you, you can naturally sell yourself into that position because you're just trying to put the puzzle pieces together as opposed to trying to convince somebody to give you a chance. Similarly to if you were looking for a customer, when you get a sales call and you know that they're just desperate and they're like, please just give me 15 minutes of your time, like you're doing them a favor. It's a very different experience than when you feel like someone really has something that they know they can help you, and that is their mission in life is to make your life better or your business better. That's sort of the same process for an individual is, what is it that's different about them? What can you harness in terms of your personal brand? And also it doesn't hurt, to create a visual around that on your resume, kind of just try to stand out from the crowd. And also it helps you with your internal clarity as well. So that if you've had jobs in the past that you haven't loved, it's a good opportunity to get that clarity and then, find something that will feel really fulfilling in the future.
Wow. It's a lot of information to absorb, but it makes sense. It absolutely does. So can you talk to us, maybe using yourself as an example? So when and how did you start finding personal branding important, and how has it affected your life and what you do?
Yeah, I worked for big companies for most of my career. I was at a company called Gartner for 11 years and managed a global sales team and was on the go and traveling and all of that. And in some ways, even though I was very successful in my role, I was starting to feel a little lost. Like I sort of did feel like it was Groundhog Day. Like every day I was waking up, going to work, my kids were little, it was hectic, and so I started just thinking about, actually originally was to start, I was thinking about writing a book, and I worked with a writing coach who gave me great advice, which was start to build your platform and sort of your following now as opposed to waiting till the book is written. And also it just sort of helped me with that internal clarity. Like I didn't even really want to look for a new job because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I couldn't really complain about the work that I was doing. And so I worked with a coach, and I recommend that people do that to get that perspective and that external kind of lens as well. And that's how sort of Charlene Ignites was born, because, and this was like years before I started my own business. I was still an employee at what I call a JOB.
JOB.
JOB. And and they asked me, they asked me for 3 words. What are 3 words that really describe what you're trying to do and what you hope to, as your brand, as your mark on the world. And the 3 words I came up with were inspire, ignite, and illuminate. And the idea is that I really wanted to inspire people, give them energy to live the experience of their life and be who they really could be and who they were at some deep level. And then sort of ignite, sort of light a fire under their butt, I guess, because I find that a lot of people, have the inspiration, they just don't know how to get going. They're sort of stuck. Right. And so when you get that spark, you kind of have to jump and say, oh, what's going on?
We all could use a little bit of that in our lives, couldn't we?
You need a push. Sometimes you need that push. And I am really good at pushing people in a very positive, loving way. And then the final thing, the illuminate for me, was the tactics, really shining a light and giving them that path forward and saying, like, go this way. Sometimes I say I'm actually not the best coach in the world sometimes, because I really like to kind of give people, that tactical advice. And sometimes I even roll up my sleeves and get right in there with them, So the consulting kind of bleeds in there. And so, and then so once I finally did decide to make the leap to working for myself and really creating my own business, I had the brand and I knew what I was all about. I didn't have to create something.
You had the clarity and you combined the action, and that was very powerful, it sounds like.
It was, and it happens all the time. So here's the cool thing about it. You can be really clear today about what you want to create, and you can have all of this. Guess what? It's changeable. You can We are dynamic human beings. We have experiences and emotions and awarenesses all the time. And so I tell people, if you're not sure, like, pick something, go. Like, you don't have to have it tattooed on your body, like your logo or whatever. You know, just, you know, pick something, go try it out, and just move forward, and, you know, don't wait. Just do it.
Start something and keep going and keep the momentum just going, it sounds like.
Right, yeah. And I really like, for me to reach out to people in the community and say, whatever that thing is that is on your someday, maybe, you know, you don't know, you know, what someday is going to be, right? There's no guarantees. That's just, that is the reality. And I will say, having a very keen sense of my own mortality and really understanding this idea that today's the day, like, you know, literally at any moment, someone can get out a piece of paper and just start saying, oh, this is what I would do, and get that brainstorm. And then the next day, do it. I mean, whatever it is, you can create a website for free nowadays. You know, it takes nothing to just start to crystallize the stuff in your own brain. And there's really no reason to procrastinate other than our own fear of what it might bring. And so that's where, again, it goes back to that old programming, that internal branding gets you every time, that brain.
What's been seared on the brain,
Exactly.
very literally.
Yeah. So awareness is the first step, though. So at least then you can have that awareness to say, wow, I had this idea and something's holding me back. What is that? It's fear. Where's that coming from? You know, and then just look inward and figure it out.
Well, that's exactly actually what I was going to ask you next, is for people watching, what would you recommend now that they're becoming more conscious of the fact that a personal brand does affect them, and they're wondering, how do I find what mine is so I can start being more intentional about it? Would you say the clarity is the first part, or what would you say is the first and maybe second part for people coming to this realization?
Yeah, I think it just start with that idea of, you know, really what do I want my legacy to be? What's the mark I would leave on the, I want to leave on the world? You know, if I really think about, you know, what I want people to say about me at my funeral or whatever it is, you know, and it could be 3 words or it could be 3 qualities. And there's no right answer. It's completely unique. One of them might be, I love puppies. I want everyone to know how much I love puppies, right? And it could be anything. It could be, I want to make people laugh, or, you know, I can dance, or, you know, I always wanted people to know that I can sing, or whatever. And then the next piece of that is, okay, what is the current reality? You know, is that the way I live my life? You know, and you have that opportunity in every moment. In the next moment, if you, let's say, you say, well, something I want people to know is that I'm really a kind person, that I have a lot of love to give to people. I have a loving heart. In every moment from then on, now you can say, that's what I'm about. And that becomes you living, see, you're searing in a new brand by every moment you make that decision. And that's really, it's the decision points to live authentically in our brand, whether it's at the grocery store or you're driving down, you know, 28 and someone cuts you off.
Yes.
You know?
Remembering that personal branding of, I am loving and I am kind.
I lead with love. I always lead with love, or I have a peaceful heart, or I love puppies. So you know what? I'm going to start, you know, really thinking about how I can, you know, be more, you know, get more puppies in my life or whatever. And sometimes the awareness of what is the reality today will also expose things that maybe are true about us that we don't love, you know, and so it gives you those things that you can work on as well. And it's just always progress, not perfection.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And building a better community literally from the individual ground up.
Yes. And it's so true. And, you know, so often, you know, I go on Facebook and I see a lot of the different message boards, and people are, you know, complaining about every possible thing. You know, genuinely, sometimes you do have to stand up for things that you believe in, and that's great. And you can do it in a way that's really supportive and helpful and informed, and with grace and all of those things, grace and strength. And sometimes, you know, it's just taking that step back before complaining or being negative or spreading that little gossip over here or whatever, and saying, you know, what are my goals here? Like, is this who I want to be? Is this really a good representation of my personal brand? And just take that moment. And there is a good expression also, with, if all else fails and you can't remember any of this, if you meet more than 2 jerks in one day, you're probably one of them.
That's a funny one and probably very true.
I tell my husband that sometimes when he comes home. For some reason, driving home from work tends to inspire that particular adage.
Conversations.
Yeah.
If everybody was awful on the road, then maybe.
Right? We always have that ability in any moment to make that choice about how we want to perceive the world and how we want the world to perceive us.
Makes perfect sense. Last question that I have for you. So since, this is a Bettering Our Community show, can you share from personal experience how developing your own personal brand has bettered the community around you and what the ripple effect has been?
Yeah, particularly I think for the Derry, Londonderry area, I sort of adopted a group called Women Connecting with Women. And the whole purpose of the group, we meet on the third Wednesday of every month, somewhere right along this area, exit 4, exit 5, typically. And the whole purpose of that for me is to extend my brand. It's one of the many ways that I extend my brand into the community. And it's about positive energy and support and people getting to be completely authentic without any judgment. So that's been a big one. And I've, with that group in particular, for example, I could have made that a strict business networking, let's get referrals, let's learn how to, boost sales. I could have made it very business oriented because I have that sort of expertise and background.
Right.
And yet my personal brand is around really trying to help people live the best possible experience and spread that sort of love and light into the world. So that is one opportunity where I get to do that. And really, working with businesses, I love to work with sales and marketing teams because by making our businesses stronger and making, happier cultures and happier leaders and teams and businesses that are thriving and growing, that does also extend, sort of that same positivity into the community.
Oh, it does. Strong businesses, strong individuals make for better communities.
Right. And you can have businesses that are just financially successful that don't fulfill, my personal mission. That does exist. I really love to work with companies where there's brilliant leaders who are super open-minded and want to create an environment and a culture and leave a legacy, that is about something that's sort of bigger than they are.
That makes sense. So it's not only bettering themselves, but bettering the community at large.
Absolutely. And the world, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Charlene, anything else you'd like to add for our viewers out there?
Yeah, no, this has been fabulous. I really appreciate you having me on. And if people want to find me, I'm everywhere on social media at Charlene Ignites. So I've been getting more into Instagram lately. I'm on Twitter and I have a Facebook page too. And again, just every day I try to spread, some good positive energy and get people inspired to sort of capture their life and wake up and not be average.
A great thought for today. Wake up, don't be average.
Exactly.
Charlene, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I've learned so much talking with Charlene DeCesar of Charlene Ignites about how finding your personal brand betters the community. For Bettering Our Community, my name's Tiffany Dunyan. Thank you so much for watching.